That's the thing, isn't it? It's Jekyll and Hyde when it comes to Gareth Bale and Real Madrid. I think that they had a falling out a long time ago.
Hello and welcome on Debatable on 11 Football with me, Fabrizio Romano, as always, to discuss about football, transfers and many other topics here together. And today I'm joined by La Liga expert Semra Hunter. We discuss together about Real Madrid, but in particular Barcelona. Semra, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Happy to be with you here to talk La Liga, because the focus is really big this time, with Barcelona doing fantastic, but also with Real Madrid moments. So I'm super happy to talk La Liga with you, always doing a great job on La Liga clubs and on the general league. And so I wanted to start, of course, Semra, from El Clasico, because it's been huge for Barcelona. So why, in your opinion, in your personal opinion, Barcelona were so dominating at Bernabeu with Real Madrid?
I think in a nutshell, Xavi got the tactical plan right and Carlo Ancelotti got the tactical plan completely wrong. Barcelona, they came out absolutely dominant. They had a very crystal clear idea as to how they wanted to play. They had every single role defined by every single player. It was completely structured, especially the way that it was set up. So if you look at their average position, and it was positional play as it has been under Xavi, they kept with that 4-3-3 positioning the whole way throughout. And so they were able to continually keep the ball, to have that possession, to press high, to use a lot of intensity, to break through Real Madrid. And I think Real Madrid, for the first 5 minutes, they did kind of surprise Barcelona because tactically, as I said, Carlo Ancelotti, he changed things up because he had to. There was no Karim Benzema. But I think he overplayed his hand. He tried to take a little bit more of a risk than he normally does. He's normally very conservative, doesn't like to change it up at all. He goes with a 4-3-3, but instead he decided to put in Fede Valverde, have an extra midfielder. But he didn't exactly play him as an extra midfielder. He had Luka Modric playing as a false nine. So they were all over the shop. Real Madrid had no idea what they were supposed to be doing. There was no coordinated press from their end. They had players running around kind of like headless chickens, not really sure what they were supposed to be doing. You could see them looking at one another, completely confused. And if you look at their average position, they were almost on top of each other the entire time. There's so much space down their right-hand side for the likes of for Dembele to go down and to just absolutely destroy Nacho, for example. There was so much space for Barcelona to take advantage of. And like I say, they never really closed them down. And in some ways, even though Barcelona were scintillating and they were brilliant, Real Madrid made them look all the better because they were so poor. This was one of the worst performances I've seen from Real Madrid in a very, very long time. And again, I think it comes down to the initial game plan from both managers. One was just spot on and the other one was completely out of his depth in a weird way to say.
Yes, I agree with you 100%, and in particular on one name, Xavi Hernandez, because I think what he's doing with Barcelona is really incredible. He joined on November 6th and he changed literally everything into the club. I was speaking with some agents of some players and they told me it's incredible how the situation changed from Ronald Koeman to Xavi Hernandez into the dressing room, in the training sessions, in the approach with the players, in the mentality. Everything has changed with Xavi, and also in the approach with the new signings, because Xavi was so important to have the opportunity to sign Ferran Torres, to sign Pierre Aubameyang on deadline day. So he's on every single part of the club, he's making the difference. What are the main changes you think by Xavi Hernandez that has made to turn the team around in this incredible way?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head with some of them already. But one of the things I think that was so important that he did before he even arrived back to the club was that he'd been following Barcelona for years. He knew he was always going to come back, that he was going to take up the reins one day. So he had been preparing himself for a very long time, not just with the work that he was doing on the ground in Qatar, but he was making notes of the things that were happening with the squad, the way they were playing, things he didn't like, things he wanted to change under Ronald Koeman and previous managers. So when he came back to Barcelona, he hit the ground running. It was straight away, right, so we're going to fix this. I'm going to have meetings with individual players. I'm going to tell them what to do, how to do it. I'm going to work on improving their individual quality. And on top of that, reinstilling confidence on an individual level and also belief on a collective level. He brought that hope back to the club, and you could feel it amongst the fans. You can feel it amongst the players too. So straight away, he got down to business. And I think that really helped the players, because all of a sudden they had somebody who was showing leadership qualities, who was telling them what needed to be done, how it needed to be done, something that they could follow, which wasn't really happening with Ronald Koeman. He also seemed a little bit out of his depth, a little bit unsure as how to take the team forward. And so I think when he came in, it was, okay, I'm in business. And the players, they straighten up, they sit a little bit taller, they know they have to follow the rules, especially when he's around. And also the weight that his name carries for the legend that he was as a footballer. I think the players immediately take notice and they listen in a way that Zidane had that kind of impact at Real Madrid. So again, you mentioned the training sessions, that's completely changed. He's made everything much more competitive, whether it's just setting out the cones or it's just going for a bit of a sprint, or it doesn't really matter what the drill is. He wants the players to feel competitive because then that then spills out onto the pitch during the games. It's natural for them. He's trying to create that hunger, that desire for more. So that's something that certainly helped. You mentioned the winter transfer market, the signings. They were spot on. And it wasn't just him. It was down to Jordi Cruyff. It was down to Matteo Alemán as well. They did a fabulous job in recruiting, knowing exactly the type of profile player that they needed and to go out there and get them. They fit really well into the system of play. Ferran Torres, he worked under Guardiola for the last year and a half, so he already had an idea of what the Barcelona DNA was all about. Aubameyang, I think he was somebody that just needed a change of scenery. We can talk about him in more depth later on if you want. But it was something that was a good move for all parties involved. Traoré, another player who came through La Masia, who's born outside of Barcelona, in the next town over in Hospitalet. He was coming home. And I think that's something that he would have liked to do. He'd be gone for, I think, 7 years or something like that. So he also was familiar with the club. So you have this high level of players coming in with a lot of quality and talent, and they can add something to the squad, mixed in with Xavi knowing exactly what he wants from his team, how he wants them to play, again, helping with that individual belief and collective belief. So you have all these ingredients that are being mixed together in such a way that has made such a positive outcome. And you are seeing those results. And it's been devastating for a lot of the opponents on the opposite end of the pitch.
No, they are doing a fantastic job. But in particular, what you mentioned on Matteo Alemany and Jordi Cruyff, and of course the president Joan Laporta, they are together. You can feel that Barcelona are now together, the board, the manager, and the president. And this is something that didn't happen with Ronald Koeman. So this feeling is really important also for the players and for the new signings at Barca. And talking about players, you already mentioned some of them. But they have many different kind of players, experienced players like Aubameyang arriving in January, but also the new stars, the new talents like Araujo, Gavi. They have many talented players, of course, Pedri. If you can mention who have been the standout stars for Barcelona, because they have many.
Oof. They do. It'd be really difficult to say. I think you'd almost have to go line by line to try and pick out stars or big names or people that have impressed. And it's interesting because a lot of the players are the same players, obviously, as they were a few months ago on Ronald Koeman, but they look completely different. And I think someone who really deserves a lot of credit is Frenkie de Jong. He was under some serious criticism for quite some time, even before Ronald Koeman took over. There was always this feeling that we're not quite getting the best out of him. We don't really know what would be the best position for him, how he's not playing exactly the way that he was at Ajax, where he really made a name for himself. But Xavi has found the way, and he's a completely different player. And another, obviously, is Pedri, Gavi, you mentioned. The three of them could be the future in the midfields for Barcelona. Nico as well, someone who's really surprises coming up from the B team. Honestly, I think the impressive thing about Barcelona right now is more the collective, more the unit than anything else, rather than just highlighting any one single star, because they all work together so incredibly well. Having said that, I do think another name we should mention is Dembélé, because he's had, as you know, such an incredible rough, how would you call it? I guess a roller coaster ride since joining the club.
Yes. In particular on deadline day, because on deadline day, I still remember the feeling around him.
Exactly. Is he in? Is he out? He's constantly injured. Every time he comes back, he only plays for a few games and he's out again. So people were losing a lot of patience with him. And it would just seem that all that needed to happen was having the right manager come along and really take him under his wing and say, I can make you the player I think you're going to be. He said as much, Xavi, he thought he would be the best player in the world in his position, just to give him time. And he does look like he's coming good on that promise. I don't think he's there yet. I don't think we can say he's the best in the world in that position. But he has been really, really excellent and fun to watch. He's the most two-footed player around. I don't know anybody who's so evenly balanced it can make use of both legs to such effect, whether it's an assist or a goal, whatever it is that he can provide. But he is so difficult to stop in a 1v1 situation. And we are starting to see that Dembélé that I think everybody hoped to see, the one that joined from Borussia Dortmund all those years ago. And I would say he's one of the other ones who's drastically changed since Xavi's taken over.
Yes, and this is thanks to Xavi. I 100% agree with this point, because I still remember that Juan Laporta, the day after the deadline day, the 1st of February, said, okay, it's up to Xavi. Now it's up to him. For us, the Dembélé situation is in danger, but it's up to Xavi. And Xavi protected him, played him, and as you mentioned, now he's making the difference. So credits to Xavi also for Ousmane Dembélé with new life at Barcelona now. But a player you mentioned, Semra, is Pierre Aubameyang. We were together on deadline day discussing about transfers, and discussing about Aubameyang. I still remember the feeling around Barcelona. Many people, also from Premier League fans, saying why Barca are signing Aubameyang. He's not at top level now, and then now he's proving everybody wrong because he's doing fantastic with Barca. So did he just needed some more love from his manager, maybe?
I think yes, and also I think he needed the right environment to flourish. Things obviously weren't working at Arsenal. He had a falling out with Arteta. We all know the story by now. He was completely iced out. It was made clear that he was most likely never going to play for them again. So a move was almost the only option possible. He had always said he wanted to play in Spain. His mother is Spanish. He has family in Sitges, which is a town 30 minutes south of Barcelona. He knew the country very well. He speaks fluent Spanish. He knew the culture. So I think it was always in the cards. And it just seemed like destiny would have it that this was the right moment in time. The stars aligned. And Barcelona, they really needed a number 9. He really needed a new club. And he was going on a free transfer. So it would work perfectly for everybody, right? And he has hit the ground running. I think football, like so many other sports, it's mental, right? There's, like 80-90% of the game is about your mental state versus your physical state a lot of the time. And so he just seems so much happier, so much more at home. He has that relationship with Dembélé. They were obviously very good friends from the time of Borussia Dortmund, and they're rekindling that flame as well on the pitch too. And I think he does have that support that Xavi is showing him, yes, you're going to be my man. I want you to be up there as a target man. He fits into the system. He understands the way they want to play, and they play to his strengths. And so you can see it, 7 goals in 7 La Liga games, 9 goals in 11 games overall. It's incredible. He's a completely different player. He always was an elite level, world-class striker, I think. He had lost his way, but now he seems to be back and loving his football again.
Yes, it's true. It seems completely different for Pierre Aubameyang, so we're happy for him. But Semra, you follow La Liga on daily basis. You know everything on La Liga. And on Real Madrid side, you think after this incredible clasico statement from Barcelona, are they worried by this Barca transformation? How do you feel Real Madrid side on Barca? Not maybe for this season, because La Liga seems to be in control for Real Madrid, but for the future, how is the feeling?
I would suspect that Florentino Perez is not at all happy.
Okay.
Not just the fact that they lost, but it was the way they lost, the impotence of Real Madrid, this idea that they just couldn't cope. They were completely demolished. It could have been 6-0, 7-0, 8-0, and they were fortunate that it wasn't. So I think that we're going to be in for a really interesting summer ahead. Obviously, all of the headlines, the talk for years now has been about Kylian Mbappe, has been about Real Madrid building this war chest, saving the money, not making any signings for the last couple of years because they want to put all of their investment on him. I have a feeling it's going to go beyond that. Okay. And that could be the case. I mean, you probably know more better than me, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if Carlo Ancelotti is not there in the summer. I wouldn't be surprised if these are the kinds of defeats. When you lose to Barcelona, you lose in a clasico, and the way that you lose it, even if you win the league, and they're probably not going to win the Champions League, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't survive this time around. Having said that, I do think that worried may not be the right word. I think they'll be wary, and I think they'll understand that that was a statement win for Barcelona, and the statement is, we're back, and we're ready to take on anybody. Not just you, anybody in Europe. So I think they will be looking to rebuild this, maybe not rebuild, but certainly strengthen the squads. They haven't done that, as we said, for the last couple of years. There are certainly other areas that do need some strengthening. So I think we're at the beginning of a really interesting new era, not just for Barcelona, but maybe even for Real Madrid as well.
I think they need something fresh. They absolutely need something fresh also in the market. Yes. They did something with Camavinga last summer. Of course, now there is Kylian Mbappe, as you mentioned, as the main target. They hope to complete everything as soon as possible, but they need something fresh also in other positions. For example, centre-backs, they have Militao, who is doing fantastic, but maybe they need some other player into the team, because for sure for Real Madrid will be an important summer. As you mentioned, Kylian Mbappe, but not only Kylian Mbappe. They have many topics to discuss in the summer, and one of these topics, Semra, is about players out of contract, because we know about Isco, we know about Marcelo, but there is a player I wanted to ask you about. Is Gareth Bale. How do you see his future? How do you see his situation with Real Madrid? It's incredible because when he's playing with Wales, he's amazing, and then he's back to Real Madrid and never performing at Gareth Bale level.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's Jekyll and Hyde when it comes to Gareth Bale and Real Madrid. I think that they had a falling out a long time ago. During the Zidane era, Zidane and him on a personal level seem to have also had a bit of a falling out. There's no love lost between the two of them. They didn't get on. And I don't think Zidane really made any secrets of that. And so I think that this has been on a downward spiral for a very long time. And I think just from the outside looking in, it feels like Gareth Bale has been mentally checked out from Real Madrid. And I don't think he ever really wanted to reinvest himself at the club. I think he was hoping that he could stay at Spurs at the end of last season when the loan was up. I don't think he was necessarily hoping or wanting to come back to Real Madrid to finish out his contract, but he didn't really have much of a choice. I had hope for his sake because he is a wonderful player and he's incredibly talented. And I do feel like Madridistas have been incredibly shortchanged by the fact that they didn't consistently get the best out of him as they could have all those years. He's been there, 8 years now, something like that? It's unbelievable how the time has flown. But the thing is, it's just you get a sense of frustration. I thought Carlo Ancelotti, he's coming back. They got him famously. They had a great relationship the first time around back in 2014-15. I thought, maybe this will galvanize him. Maybe he's the catalyst, the Italian, to get Gareth Bale back to the best version that he can be at a club level. But unfortunately, that hasn't panned out. It's been injury after injury after injury. He mysteriously disappeared from the squad list before the clasico, only to then reappear with Wales last night and put in a brilliant performance and score 2 worldies. So you have to ask the question, is he emotionally invested in Real Madrid? I don't think so. So I suspect that he'll run down the contract, he'll leave in the summer. I don't think he'll stay in Spain. Obviously, if he can help Wales qualify for the World Cup, then that is his number one target. If they make it, then I think he'll try and find another club where he can play for the next season to stay fresh. And if they don't qualify for the World Cup, then you know what? Maybe he actually decides to hang up his boots. Maybe that's it.
It could be an option. We had many rumors on this possibility, and also about MLS clubs, because many MLS clubs approached him even last summer, but he was not convinced about this opportunity. But let's see this summer what happens, because I still see, as you mentioned, Gareth Bale to leave Real Madrid on a free. I don't see him extending the contract. But let's see what's next for him. As you mentioned, the World Cup will be a key point for Gareth Bale. How do you see the criticism? Because you know very well La Liga fans in general, Real Madrid fans, they always expect a lot from their players. It's the same with Eden Hazard. So he said the fans should be ashamed of themselves of what happened around Gareth Bale. How do you see the criticism around him?
I think some of it is merited. I think that he has, on some occasions, not really done himself many favours. There's obviously that famous, well, I guess now famous meme and that flag that says Wales, Golf, Madrid in that order. When he went over to celebrate with the fan who had hoisted the flag, that certainly did not make many Madrid fans very happy at all. And I think he actually turned a lot of them into enemies in some way. I think for a very long time, Spanish fans in the Spanish capital in particular, Real Madrid fans, they gave him a bit of leniency. They were hoping that he would be able to be the player they wanted him to be. He has scored, obviously, some very important goals in key moments, in key games, in finals that has led to silverware. So there was always a little bit of this, well, he has done a lot for us, so we don't want to turn against him entirely. But I do think in the last couple of years, once he left to go to Spurs, that was kind of the breaking point. And I don't think that they were particularly happy to see him come back to the club this summer. And I tell you what, oftentimes most people, even myself included, I even forget that he's at the club this season. Because you just don't see him, you don't hear about him, nobody really talks about him anymore, except for whenever the international breaks pop up again. Then the press love to go crazy. Exactly. They love to bring up this, Gareth Bale, Wales v Real Madrid scenario. So I do think some of the criticism is valid. I don't think he ever really took to trying to fully immerse himself in the Spanish culture. He lives a pretty recluse life, which is fine. Every footballer, they can do what they want. They can live however they want. But I think he could have done a little bit more, maybe spoken Spanish, for example, after 8 years to try and win over the hearts of Spanish or Real Madrid fans. And it just hasn't really happened. So, there's two sides to every story. He'll have his reasons why he hasn't done certain things. But I think overall, it's a sad way to end for him. And overall, yes, there are a lot of criticisms that I do think are worth making.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you also on this point. I think it's part of the game. When you are at Real Madrid, everything is going to be big in positive or negative way. So you should be aware of this when you are a top player like Gareth Bale. But to be back on Barcelona, and one of the most important topics always talking about Barca is about the financial situation, the current financial situation. Because my question is, will there be money in the summer for Barcelona? The answer I'm receiving is they are planning for something big, so they want to do something big. They already signed Frank Kessie on a free. Andreas Christensen will sign soon. They're already planning for some important signings, a new striker, and many positions. They're looking for new players. But on financial point of view, how do you see Barcelona now, Semra?
It's a very good question, because I feel like Joan Laporta, he loves to be the center of attention. He loves to create a bit of hype. He loves to sell a lot of smoke, which sometimes does turn out to be true, but sometimes it doesn't. So I do think that it's entirely possible they could be planning for something big, but you just have to wonder how big and where they're going to get the money. They've already taken out a 650 million euro loan to help pay for the redevelopment of the Camp Nou. And they're trying, I think, to rework the CVC deal. I don't know if it actually happened yet or not, but I think one of the reasons they didn't want to take the money in the first place was that it couldn't be used for transfers. So I suspect that's something they're trying to renegotiate. You probably know better than I do, Fabrizio, about that. They're
on it. They're negotiating, yes. And they know how important it is, as you were mentioning this point.
Exactly. So you just have to wonder where they're going to get the money, because they're so deep in debt. I mean, they're up to their eyeballs. It's over €1 billion. So if you bring somebody like Haaland, I don't think they're going to go to Mbappe. I don't even think anybody's really going to try necessarily for Mbappe. Maybe City or one of the other bigger clubs. But he's so sold on going to Real Madrid. Maybe they go for Haaland. We know that Joan Laporta and Raiola, they have an incredibly close relationship that goes back at least 10 years. He was the one who helped broker the deal with Zlatan Ibrahimovic back in the day. So maybe, but again, you have to think about all the hidden fees that come along. Yes, maybe they can reactivate, or they can activate the 75 million euro release clause to bring him now, which could be considered a deal waiting instead of waiting for another year when it could be maybe 200 million, something like that. But you have to pay wages, you have to pay add-on fees, there's bonuses, there's agent fees, there's all sorts of other things involved. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hundreds of millions of euros. So where are they going to get that money? Are they going to get another loan?
It's going to be really difficult, I think, for that kind of signings. I agree.
I just don't see it happening. I really don't. I think they're going to continue in the same vein, as you already mentioned, the way that they've been doing that in the winter market. Focus on trying to find free transfers and trying to keep costs at a minimum. Yes. So we'll see. You never know. He is quite the showman.
Never say never. After what happened last summer with Barcelona, everything can happen, I think. So let's see.
Oh, that's true. If there's one club where anything can happen, it's Barcelona.
It's true. But you mentioned about the striker. Let's see which kind of player they will pick. But do you think there are other areas, other kind of player they need to strengthen for them to compete at the top level for next season? So maybe centre back or right back. Many positions they're looking for, no?
Both. Centre back, right back, left back. I think defensively they definitely need to bolster the squads. Dani Alves, I think they would like to extend his contract for another year, but I mean, he'll be 39 and he obviously doesn't offer up much in the way of defence, but he's great going forward. We know what he can do offensively. Serginho Dest, now he's injured. I mean, obviously he'll be back at some stage, but I'm not sure he's at the level and the quality that they're looking for, especially defensively, so they could maybe use somebody else to help out in that regard. At left back, you pretty much have Jordi Alba, who's also starting to age. He's one of the last of that golden generation. Piqué, same scenario for him, even though he's been brilliant since Xavi's taken over. Same with Busquets. The two of them look like completely different players. But, time is running out, unfortunately, as it does for everybody. So I think they could definitely use some reinforcements there. Obviously, the big name is Azpilicueta coming back home to Spain. Maybe he could play, as well as Christensen. Both deals look like maybe they're going to happen, considering what's going on with Chelsea. But the midfield completely sorted now with Kessie coming. That's 6 midfielders. I don't think Xavi needs or wants anymore. So the other question will be, up top. Is he going to try and keep Traoré, or are they going to spend the money? Was it 35 million, I think it is, to keep him at the end of the loan deal? Or are they going to let him go back? Are they going to try and find other players who are available for free? I don't know. But I think the number one priority absolutely has to be in defence.
Yes, and I think also winger. They want to sign a winger, in particular if Dembele will leave on a free,
Right.
and one of the names is Rafinha from Leeds. He's doing fantastic, and he's a player that Barcelona really appreciate, but let's see the budget, and then what they will be able to do.
Well,
I
Ansu
wanted to
Fati is
ask you-
coming back from injury, so he's almost
Yes,
going to be
also.
like
How
a
many they
signing,
have?
right?
How many players they have, how many talented and young players they have is incredible, really. So it's going to be huge next season, the choices for Barcelona to decide who will be part of this team. But wanted to ask you your feelings, Semra, on Kylian Mbappé. You already mentioned about him. We had some rumors from France, from L'Equipe, mentioning Kylian Mbappé as a target for Barcelona. The answers I'm receiving even today from Barcelona is no way. So there is nothing going on for Kylian Mbappé and Barca. And we know that for Kylian Mbappé is Real Madrid or Paris Saint-Germain, with good chances for Real Madrid. How is your feeling about these Barca rumors?
I completely agree with you. I don't think there's any chance of Kylian Mbappé going to Barcelona, not for all the money in the world. I mean, we know how much he loves Real Madrid. It's been his childhood dream. He made the little book, the drawing, the comic book. There we go. The comic strip about going to Real Madrid.
Yes.
So, I mean, his icons, his idols, there was Zidane, they're all the former players that have been at Real Madrid. That is where his heart is set. And no, you can't put a price on that. So we know Florentino Perez, he's long admired and wanted Kylian Mbappé. I think it's the worst kept secret in football.
Yes.
And I think that's the only destination that he's going to end up at. And I would say it's basically a done deal. We're just waiting to hear the official announcement made. Obviously, it was, let's wait till PSG in the Champions League until those games are over. But I presume they would wait until the end of the season and then finally make the announcement. Barcelona, no chance. No chance.
Okay. And the final point, we have to mention him when we talk about Barcelona, even if he's not Barcelona player now, but he is Barcelona. He means Barcelona, and he's Leo Messi, of course. You think there are chances for his comeback to Barca? Because what I'm told, as of now, there are no contacts, but never say never. We know how is football. We know how crazy could be the market, as happened last summer. Leo was going to Barcelona, back to Barcelona to sign the contract, and then 48 hours later, he was Paris Saint-Germain player. So you think there is even a 1% chance for Leo Messi to come back to Barca, or you think it's going to be impossible?
I think one day he'll come back to the club, but not as a player.
Okay.
I think he'll be involved maybe in the backroom staff or something else. But I think that stage is over. I think for everybody. Financially, I think it'd be very difficult to bring him back considering the wages that he's on. And I think from a football point of view, they've moved on. Xavi's planning for the future, and it would be incredibly difficult to bring Messi back just for one season, then kind of adapt to him and to build around him again, even though he would probably fit in seamlessly. But he's only realistically going to stick around for maybe a year or two. He's always said he wanted to go to the MLS. He would like to try life in the States. So maybe he's already mentally preparing himself for that next stage of his career. But I think Barcelona are in such a good run of form and they're playing in such a great way. You almost don't want to change anything if you can avoid it. And that means trying to keep the core players and the team together as much as possible. And I think Xavi is going to be working extremely hard to get Dembele to stay, even though Laporta has said, we're not offering him any more contracts. He has to come to us now. So that could be really interesting. But I don't see Messi necessarily coming back. I think emotionally as well for the fans, with everything that happened this summer prior, with him trying to force an exit, then having to stay, then all of a sudden staying, wanting to stay, but getting forced out of the club. There was so much upheaval and emotional turmoil around all of that I think the fans have also kind of finally moved on and healed, so to speak, from that loss, because it did feel like a really heavy loss for a lot of these people.
Yes.
So I think it would just be too difficult from that point of view as well to have him come back and then only to leave again. So for me, that chapter, unfortunately, as much as it would be great to see Messi back in Barcelona, I think that chapter is well closed.
Yes, and Barcelona are into the new era now, so with new talented, young, fantastic players. And so that's it for Barca. Let's see what's next in the summer. But thanks, Semra. It's been a super pleasure to be together, really, and to discuss La Liga with you.
My pleasure as well. Thanks for having me on. Enjoyed it.
Thank you, Semra, as always. And guys, you have been listening and watching Debatable on 11 Football. So let us know your thoughts in the comments or anything you want to comment. We're reading you. So review our podcast or send a message, a comment here. We're waiting for you as always with a new episode in the coming days. Follow us or subscribe wherever you are. Thank you from Fabrizio Romano. Ciao.